additional funding for education over 5 years. Imagine what your city could do with $158 million. We have enough for veterans, $42 billion more than the President's budget. We make sure that our cities and communities are secure with investments in gang prevention, juvenile justice, cops and other programs in the justice area. We make our communities, we help our communities with community development grants, billions of dollars, diplomacy. That is a compassionate budget. It's compassionate, but it's also fiscally responsible. Madam Speaker, we have a budget that gets us out of the mess that we got into. It compassionately invests in our priorities. It is a proud budget, and on behalf of the Congressional Black Caucus, I ask for your support for the Congressional Black Caucus budget, and thank the gentlelady from Michigan for her leadership on this budget, and particularly her leadership in the Congressional Black Caucus.
Virginia, we offered you a couple more minutes. Did you want to continue for a little more, or are you done?
I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Gentleman yields back his time. The gentleman from Wisconsin.
I will address the House for the remainder of my time for the well, madam.
Gentleman is recognized.
Madam Chair, I wish to compliment the Congressional Black Caucus with their budget today, because they're bringing a serious budget to the floor. They're bringing a budget that does achieve balance. They're bringing a budget that reflects their philosophies and their policies, and that's important. And I commend the Black Caucus under the leadership of Ms. Kilpatrick for that. This is what we do. We come to the floor with our budgets to encapsulate our priorities and what are the visions we have for the future of our country. This budget does raise taxes. You simply can't get around the fact that it calls for $711.9 billion in additional tax revenues over the next 5 years to make the budget balance. But that's fine. I wish to talk at this time about the underlying Democrat budget. And let me just quote from the Washington Post this morning. The article in the Washington Post this morning in talking about the Democrat budget says, quote, "And while the House Democrats say they want to preserve key parts of Bush's signature tax cuts, they project a surplus in 2012 only by assuming that all of these tax cuts expire on schedule in 2010. Now, we understand, next one, please. We understand that people say on the other side of the aisle they don't want to raise taxes. I hear those words. I even hear that they say they have these sort of mythical reserve funds, which is really nothing more than a wish list. So we had all these votes in the Budget Committee. We said, okay, if you really don't want to raise these taxes, then let's put it into the budget. Let's make it clear. Let's put it into the numbers of the budget so that we clearly can tell the American people we're not going to raise your taxes. So we had a whole series of votes in the Budget Committee to amend the budget to make sure taxes weren't being raised. We had an amendment to make sure that we didn't increase marginal tax rates. We had an amendment to make sure we didn't eliminate the $1,000 per child tax credit. We had an amendment to make sure we didn't eliminate marriage tax penalty relief. We had an amendment to make sure we didn't eliminate the capital gains and dividends tax relief. We had an amendment to make sure we didn't eliminate state and local sales tax relief, which applies to states like Texas and Tennessee and Florida. We had an amendment to make sure we didn't bring back the death tax. Amendment after amendment after amendment, which would have made this clear and simple that we weren't going to raise taxes, was defeated, every single one of them, by party line votes. The Democrats defeated every single amendment in attempt to stop these tax increases from coming into this budget. Now, let's take a look at what kind of tax increases we're talking about. The Democrat budget only reaches balance because of this. This is how their budget achieves balance. They have $32.5 billion in higher taxes coming from higher tax rates on dividends and capital gains. They have $40 billion in higher revenues because they cut in half the per-child tax credit, bring back the marriage tax penalty, which makes people pay taxes virtually or simply because they're married. They get $91 billion in extra tax revenues by bringing the death tax back in full force. And they gain another $78 billion by taking away the lower 10% bracket for low-income Americans. And they bring into the government an extra $104 billion by raising all other marginal tax rates. And that's also the tax rate that small businesses pay. So under their plan, small businesses, which is the engine of economic growth of America, most jobs come from small businesses. Under their plan, small businesses will pay a tax rate at about 40% when we're going to actually be giving a tax rate to the largest companies in America, IBM, Exxon, Microsoft, at 35%. This is how their budget balances. Raise taxes on businesses, raise taxes on small businesses, raise taxes on investment in seniors' pension funds, raise taxes on people with children, raise taxes on people who get married, raise taxes on people who die, and raise taxes on low-income Americans. That is the only way, the only reason, the only ability that the Democrat budgets actually achieve balance. We can do better, Madam Chairman, and the reason we can do better is because we have to attack out-of-control spending. Washington does not have a revenue problem, Madam Chairman. Money is coming in as fast as it ever has. Money is going out too fast. Both parties are to blame for this. I'm not going to be here and sanctimonious say that our party's been wonderful on spending. No, we have not. What I am saying is we have to agree. Spending is out of control. That's the problem. Let's control spending. The budget we're bringing to the floor later on does just that. We give the tools to get rid of pork. We give the tools to let the American people see exactly how their tax dollars are being spent. We bring more accountability and transparency to the federal budget process. We reform our entitlement programs so we can extend their solvency, so we can make sure that people can better count on Medicare and Medicaid. These are the things that we've got to do so we don't crank up our debt, raise our taxes, and put a huge burden on our children and grandchildren. With that, Madam Chair, I yield the balance of my time.
Gentleman's time has expired. All time for debate on the amendment has expired. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentlewoman from Michigan. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to. Gentleman from Wisconsin.
Madam Chair, I ask for a recorded vote.
A recorded vote is requested. Those in favor of taking this vote by a recorded vote will rise. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their vote by electronic device. This is a 15-minute vote.